Welcome to Hidden Horizons, a channel where we uncover the most fascinating and overlooked stories from world history, told through calm narration and captivating tales. Here, the past is not just recounted, but brought to life, inviting you to wonder and reflect along the way. If these journeys inspire your curiosity, please consider liking and subscribing to help support more stories like this one. In this video, we delve into the tale of a lost sea that once divided the Americas. We'll gently explore the ancient waterways and forgotten landscapes that shaped migrations, sparked connections, and left echoes on cultures long past. Together, we'll imagine a world reshaped by water, and discover how these mysteries continue to ripple through our history. Settle in as we begin this calming voyage into hidden chapters of the Earth. Chapter 1. Shores Unknown. Imagine, before maps and memories, a vast sea stretched between the American continents, its surface shimmering beneath ancient skies. Gentle waves whispered secrets into the wind, sheltering mysteries in their cool embrace. This was the lost waterway, now hidden by land and time, that once defined the landscapes and destinies of those who dwelled along its edge. The silence of its disappearance is felt even today, in the lands. Close your eyes and let the quiet ambience of distant shores fill your mind. Picture ancient forests leaning toward waters that vanish into the morning mist, flocks of birds circling above, searching for a safe haven at dawn. With each slow tide, stories were etched into stone, and whispers travelled across the water, binding together lives and legacies. The lost sea was a silent witness to generations carving meaning out of mystery and change. Throughout the ages, the sea was both barrier and bridge, sometimes keeping cultures apart, sometimes drawing them together. Walkers stood at the water's edge, gazing into a shimmering unknown, their reflections merging with waves and stars. It was here, on these forgotten coasts, that people tested their courage, launching canoes, trading stories, or watching as the horizon swallowed both fear and hope. The sea shaped destinies in ways both gentle and profound. Night would fall softly along the lost coast, wrapping the world in mystery. Campfires flickered, casting shadows that danced across smooth stones, every spark a story waiting to ignite. To the earliest humans, the unfamiliar expanse seemed endless, a liquid mirror holding their dreams and doubts. In the darkness, travellers paused, comforted by waters, lullabies yet restless for the promise of new lands beyond the horizon's glimmer. With every sunrise, the lost sea revealed new wonders to those willing to listen. Mist drifted gently over the surface, revealing glimpses of creatures gliding just beneath the waves, fish with scales like silver leaf, and birds calling warnings overhead. Each sound echoed across empty miles, weaving a tapestry of life. The sea was ever-changing, both aloof and inviting, drawing seekers into its mysteries, and quietly shaping the fate of all. From these shores, migration began, families following ancient paths traced by water and wind. Canoes carved from ancient trees glided through the calm, guided by stars reflected in black water. The sea brought challenges but also opportunity, forging shared traditions from distant origins. With every crossing, people learned new ways to live, love, and remember, finding meaning where water met land and where the unknown called softly from just beyond sight. As centuries drifted by, seasons reshaped this mysterious sea. Floods and droughts sculpted new borders, while currents shifted the stories they held. Sometimes the water advanced, swallowing old landmarks and memories. Sometimes it retreated, revealing paths for brave wanderers. Through it all, cultures adapted, learning to survive and thrive, carrying baskets of shells, songs, and stories as proof of the unbroken link between past and present. Today, the lost sea has faded into legend, its secrets written only in the earth's subtle scars. Dry valleys and sunken forests hint at the great waters that once defined this land, quietly reminding us that landscapes are always changing. As we imagine these forgotten shores, we find ourselves connected not only to the people who stood here before, but to the wonder and uncertainty that shaped their world, and continues to shape their world, and continues to shape ours. Chapter 2. Before the waters rose. Far back in time, a vast land stretched across the Americas, untamed and uninterrupted by any sea. Rolling prairies shimmered with tall grass, deep forests welcomed silent dawns, and rivers meandered beneath endless skies. Wildlife roamed freely, from giant mammals to flocks of birds migrating with the changing seasons. The land felt whole, connected, a living, breathing expanse untouched by the... In these prehistoric days, the continent hummed with a quiet unity. Ancient peoples wandered the wilds, following the rhythm of nature as they hunted, gathered, and explored new regions. There were no boundaries but the ones made by mountains or forests. The air was thick with possibility. Every step forward a new beginning, every day a mystery waiting to unfold beneath the great open sky. As families travelled from dense woodlands to grassy plateaus, the world felt both immense and inviting. Rivers were highways, forests were shelter, each landscape offered a promise of abundance. The sound of water trickling over stones blended with distant animal calls. People learned to read the stars and the land, using what the earth gave them to thrive in this vast shared home. There was an unspoken bond between ancient people and the wilderness surrounding them. The creatures of the land, both great and small, shaped stories and traditions that spread across the continent. Mammoths wandered near human camps, while bison thundered through the plains. These were the years of quiet companionship, where survival meant respect for every living thing, each life interwoven with the next. Forests stretched endlessly, cloaking hills and valleys in green shadows. Towering trees stood as silent witnesses, their branches sheltering the secrets of those who passed beneath. In the twilight hours, fires flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows. Around these fires, tales were shared, stories of hunts, of journeys, of eerie things glimpsed at the edge of darkness, echoing through generations. The rivers ran wide and gentle, their banks alive with fresh tracks from animals come to drink. Canoes and simple rafts glided across reflective waters, carrying people and goods between far-flung camps. Each bend in the river revealed something new: a hidden cove, a grove of fruit trees, or perhaps a gathering of herds passing through. The land was generous, providing all that was needed, as long as you knew where to look. Prairies rolled out beneath the open sky, a sea of grass rippling with the wind. Sunlight painted golden patterns across the landscape as elk and horses moved in great sweeping herds. Here, ancient people tracked the herds, using knowledge passed down from elders to find fresh water and choice hunting grounds. These vast grasslands were both home and highway, shaping the course of lives and journeys alike. Everywhere, the land overflowed with life and opportunity. Plants and animals offered food, clothing, and tools. Each discovery folded into the fabric of culture and daily living. Clans gathered for seasonal feasts, songs drifted on the breeze, and the night sky provided comfort with familiar constellations. It was a world balanced on the edge of change, harmonious yet always shifting, holding its breath for what was to come. As years passed, subtle hints of transformation began to stir. Heavy rains, swollen rivers, and unfamiliar shores appeared at the farthest horizons. Some noticed changes in migration paths, or stories of distant lands hidden by mist and swelling water. Yet few could imagine the scale of change just beyond the horizon. The old world continued, quietly unaware that the ancient bond between land and people was about to be tested. In this connected world, the footsteps of ancient people echoed through forests, across plains, and alongside the untamed rivers. Their legacy wove a tapestry as intricate as the land itself. Soon, though, rising waters would redraw the map of possibility. But for now, the Americas remained whole, united under endless skies, whispering with stories waiting just beneath the surface. The coming transformation still slept, hidden in time's gentle hush. Chapter 3. The Deluge and Division. The world shifts beneath ancient feet as sudden torrents unleash a great change. Massive floods swell from glaciers, rivers, and rains, swallowing lowlands and reshaping familiar soils. The steady rumble of water carves rifts where none existed before. With each surge, the land is split, as if a giant hand draws new borders between people, forests, and the paths once travelled together. These waters do not simply flow, they thunder with power no one can withstand. Stone breaks, forests fall, and the contours of the Americas are forever altered. Mountains that once rose together become divided outposts. Valleys transform into channels where only fish and boats can now cross. In the hush that follows, a new coastline is etched, and whole worlds are cut off from each other, isolated by an unforgiving sea. Beneath the swirling currents, the memory of unity lingers. People gaze across the widening gap, seeing distant fires on shores that once felt like home. Where herds used to wander freely, water now stretches, deep and cold, barring passage. It is a division written not just in geography, but in the hearts of those who must now adapt to this uncharted reality. The Great Deluge is both an ending and a beginning. What caused such a profound transformation? The answer lies in Earth's restless forces. Shifting tectonic plates slowly built mountains and cradled basins, quietly shaping the land over millennia. But it was climate-rising temperatures, melting ice that released the true torrent. As glaciers let go their grip, meltwaters raced downward, overwhelming every valley, floodplain and channel in their path. As the waters surged, ancient rivers swelled far beyond their banks, and rainstorms lingered for weeks on end. The balance between land and water tilted, forests drowned, prairies vanished, and even the air shimmered with new patterns of mist and rain. The rhythm of the seasons shifted, and people were forced to watch as their homeland split apart, heralding a new era of separation and adaptation. For some, the flood was a moment of fear and loss. Homes and hunting grounds disappeared beneath rolling waves. Venerated sites, once shaped by hands and memories, were claimed by the sea. But for others, there was a strange sense of awe. From high cliffs, they saw sunlight glitter across unfamiliar waters, hinting at new lands and possibilities lying just beyond the horizon. In the wake of the deluge, life had to evolve. Families banded together on shrinking islands or retreated to the safety of higher ground. Stories of old crossings faded into legend as new skills emerged, crafting boats, reading the patterns of current and tide. The sea, once an obstacle, gradually became a bridge to discovery. Yet its presence was always a reminder of what had been lost. This sudden division changed the fate of entire civilizations. Across the expanding gulf, cultures that once mingled now developed alone, each painting its own history upon isolated shores. Words, tools, and songs diverged, shaped by necessity and longing. Yet even as distance grew, echoes of the old unity sometimes travelled on the waves whispered in the hush before sunrise, or the mournful cries of nightbirds. Ancient artists, living beside the new sea, chiselled stories into stone or painted tales upon hidden cave walls. They recorded not only what was lost, but also what was discovered, a landscape forever remade. The old world had vanished beneath the flood, but from its waters rose new legends, new dreams, and a promise that life would endure even in the face of overwhelming change. So unfolds the saga of the deluge and division, a tale of relentless forces and fragile hopes. The Great Sea, once a barrier, would one day become a highway linking scattered peoples in unexpected ways. But in this chapter, the world is still raw and separated, the echoes of the flood lingering in memory and myth. Out of this watery divide, new destinies begin to take shape, waiting for their own stories to be told. Chapter 4. Islands of Isolation. As ancient waters rose and receded, entire communities found themselves surrounded by uncertainty. Mysterious tides cut families apart, stranding villages like islands left behind by the world. The mist rolled low across the surface, hiding neighbours from view. In this quiet divide, daily life changed as people adapted to the rhythms of the water. Each island's world grew unique, shaped by the constant presence of separation. Stranded by these mysterious stretches of water, the people became storytellers and survivors. They learned to read the shifting waves and to listen to the silence. Meals were shared by small fires, each reflecting hopes of reunion or adventure. Songs echoed across the water, carrying news, warnings, or dreams. In this isolation, creativity flourished, and each community developed its own customs, partly shaped by longing for distant kin. With time, the separation became more than physical. Communities built new languages on these isolated islands, weaving old words into fresh patterns that echoed with local rhythms. Dialects bloomed, transformed by wind, water, and necessity. Myths began to root themselves deep within imagination. They grew like wildflowers, coloured by the fears and hopes of people who gazed out each night, wondering what lay hidden just beyond the mist-covered horizon. Legends told of beings who could travel between islands with a single leap, or spirits that slipped silently across the water while the world slept. Children whispered stories of unseen places, inventing heroes and gods with every retelling. The unfamiliar became magical, and the known grew precious. Out of this distance, new identities slowly emerged, shaped by both memory and the unyielding pull of mysterious waters. One morning, faint outlines appeared on the horizon, ancient canoes. Sleek and unfamiliar, these vessels drifted silently through the mist. The sight sent ripples of excitement and fear across isolated communities. Who were these voyagers, friends or strangers? Each arrival was a test of trust, curiosity, and caution. For some, these first visitors became the subject of new tales, their origins debated over flickering firelight. The first crossings were tentative, filled with nervous anticipation. In fragile wooden canoes, brave souls ventured out, guided by the stars and the gentle rhythm of their paddles. Each journey was an act of courage, a silent hope that there might be more to discover beyond the familiar shoreline. Stories of survival and unexpected welcome spread quickly, whispered from island to island, growing each time they were retold. With the gentle lapping of water against hulls, these new connections began to change everything. Trade slowly blossomed, shells, woven cloth, rare stones, and quietly exchanged secrets. The canoes themselves became symbols of possibility. They bridged not just the separation of water, but the gap between worlds. With every successful journey, the unknown grew slightly smaller, and each island's culture stretched outward, newly alive. Yet old habits of caution remained. The mist never fully lifted, and every crossing held a touch of uncertainty. Some journeys ended in lost canoes vanishing into fog, never seen again. These tales lived on in lullabies and warnings. Still, hope persevered. The ancient waters that once separated now formed veins of possibility. Children watched the horizon, eyes bright with imagined adventures and the promise of distant voices drawing nearer. Slowly, the islands of isolation faded into a network of stories, memories, and mingling traditions. Every crossing brought back hints of forgotten lore and unexpected friendships. Myths dissolved and reformed, shaped by new experiences. The landscape itself seemed to change, no longer hostile, but full of hidden pathways and gentle invitations. Where once there had been division, now there was a map of connections, subtly rewoven by daring and curiosity. Chapter 4 ends with distant echoes, the splash of a paddle, a flute melody drifting across the water, lanterns glowing in the mist. The people stand on their shoresome longing, some at peace united by the memory of once being alone, and now by the hope sparked in each new contact. Their worlds remain unique, but forever changed, as the lost sea becomes not a barrier, but a stage for stories yet to come. Chapter 5 Pathways and Passages. The lost sea lies quietly beneath the drifting clouds, both a promise and a challenge for those who live along its shores. As the centuries turn, it becomes more than just an obstacle. It's a shimmering mystery, calling out to explorers with the hope of new lands and distant people. The water's moods inspire awe, and its vastness stirs curiosity in the hearts of every watcher. Chapter 5 Pathways and Passages. Early navigators begin to study the lost sea with patience and care. They learn to read waves, to watch for subtle shifts in the wind, and to trust in the silent guidance of stars. Over time, they craft vessels shaped by intuition and necessity, each boat a small promise against the seas. Uncertainty, pushing slowly from one fog, softened shore to the next, guided by hope and courage. Chapter 5 Pathways and Passages. Along these changing shorelines, small communities thrive by observation and exchange. Elders share stories of brave ventures and quiet returns, tales woven into the fabric of everyday life. Children grow up with songs about hidden coves and distant voices carried over water. The sea, once feared as a boundary, begins to transform into a connecting thread, one that binds villages across rolling blue distances. Chapter 5 Pathways and Passages. As the first routes are mapped, traders and wanderers discover that the sea's moods can shift suddenly. Mist rolls in, masking direction, and sudden winds demand cautious seamanship. But with each journey, families learn the rhythms of the tide and the signals of birds overhead. Tools are refined, trade emerges, and with goods in their boats, travellers offer not just wares, but stories and ideas from distant lands. Chapter 5 Pathways and Passages. Day by day, these early mariners expand their world. Simple canoes become larger, steadier vessels. Each innovation marks the slow rise of expertise that will echo for generations. As connections deepen, so too does the understanding of neighbouring cultures. Objects once foreign become familiar. Every borrowed tool, every new crop, represents another thread in the fabric of growing trade across the ancient waterways. Chapter 5: Pathways and Passages. The lost sea's surface reflects more than sunlight. It mirrors the growing trust between distant peoples. Ceremonies emerge to greet arriving traders, and old superstitions give way to new alliances shaped by mutual need. These first passages teach that every journey has its risks, yet also its gifts, shared wisdom, rare treasures, and friendships kindled in the glimmering dawns above the water. Chapter 5: Pathways and Passages. Navigation becomes an art passed quietly from hand to hand. Patterns of stars and secrets of the wind are taught through gentle lessons and silent observation. Some families claim a special gift for reading nature's signs, their skills sought by others who wish to cross the great water. In time, generations build a legacy of expertise, and the lost sea grows ever more familiar beneath their watchful care. Chapter 5: Pathways and Passages. The sea's once hidden corridors blossom into bustling arteries of movement. Settlements dotted along the shore blend languages, customs, and beliefs, turning ports into places of unlikely collaboration. In these moments, the lost sea is celebrated not just as a dividing line, but as a living bridge. Each crossing carries hopes, questions, and the gentle promise of returning home with new knowledge. Chapter 5: Pathways and Passages. Storms and hardship never vanish entirely. There are losses remembered in silence and journeys that do not return. Yet people persist, guided by the memory of successful crossings and the possibility of discovery. The lost sea, unpredictable as ever, becomes a measure not only of physical distance, but of human determination and the need to connect, to learn, and to share across the misty expanse. Chapter 5: Pathways and Passages. In time, what began as a formidable barrier turns into a lifeline weaving distant shores together. The sound of paddles and laughter travel over dawn-lit waters. The passage of boats becomes so common that children dream of explorations yet to come. As the lost sea gives rise to new journeys, it is immortalized in story, forever linking those who dare to cross with those left awaiting their return. Chapter 6: Migrations and Memories. In the gentle hush of early dawn, the remnants of ancient travellers linger along the coastline, petroglyphs carved in stone, mounds built from countless shells, and the ruins of lost settlements whisper of journeys made under open skies. These silent witnesses mark the passage of time, unravelling the mysteries of those who once ventured across vast seas seeking new beginnings. Footfalls of forgotten peoples rest beneath centuries of earth, hidden yet ever present. Their trails are etched into the landscape sometimes by tools, sometimes by the very act of moving on. Every broken shell or faded carving is a fragile memory, pressed into sand and bedrock by lives that crossed waters unknown. As evening falls, these marks become a map leading us back to ancient migrations. Waves roll endlessly to shore, washing over the stories of those who dared the great expanse. The sea, once a barrier and a bridge, shaped destinies as people built vessels and navigated by starlight. Each ripple on the water echoes with laughter, with hope, with longing. For every journey begun, some found new lands, while others left behind only traces for us to find centuries later. In hidden coves, artifacts lay where they fell, tools chipped from obsidian, beads strung from bone or shell. These remnants speak of traded knowledge, of families gathering by firelight, sharing wisdom learned through hardship and wonder. As the tides rise and fall, so too do the buried stories return, if only for a moment, surfacing on a quiet beach, shrouded in the mists of memory. Migrations brought shifts not just in people, but in language and custom, weaving new threads into the tapestry of the land. The boundaries between old and new blurred along riverbanks and forests, where ancient songs mingled with unfamiliar birdsong. Each step forward required letting go, but it also meant the possibility of new stories. The landscape itself remembers, holding verse and silence in equal measure. Loss rides alongside every migration. Entire villages abandoned, terraces swallowed by rising waters, and stories fading into legend. Yet all that was left behind became the fertile ground for new beginnings. The memories linger, carried in the hush of the wind or the sudden gleam of flint on a hillside. The pulse of ancient footsteps continues just beneath the surface, never truly gone. Across the lost sea, people adapted to changing currents and shifting shores. Boats evolved into new shapes, navigation grew more precise, and dreams stretched farther than the horizon. Every migration was an act of hope or belief in finding something better, or simply surviving another season. The waters that once divided also connected, blending fates and histories as travellers pressed onward together. Even as the sea faded and rivers found new paths, the marks left by ancient travellers endure. Petroglyphs, sometimes obscured by lichen, speak of cosmic events and shared rituals. Shell mounds rise in the quiet, their layers revealing centuries of meals and gatherings. Such places invite us to listen, to wonder about those who left them, and imagine countless untold stories still held within the earth. On quiet nights, when stars shimmer over the water, the boundaries between past and present fade. These migrations are not only about movement, but about belonging, people searching for home as worlds changed around them. The silence is filled with memory, and every gentle wave seems to recall the voices of those who came before, their hopes rippling through time, shaping destinies yet to unfold. As this chapter closes, imagine walking along an ancient shoreline, feeling the weight of all who travelled this way before you. Footprints lost, stories not forgotten, but woven deep into soil and sea. Each migration, each memory, is carried onward by the land and water themselves, reminding us that we too are part of this endless journey, shaped by what we remember and what we choose to leave behind. Chapter 7. When waters recede, the great sea that once split the ancient Americas now begins its slow retreat. Gentle waves pull back, revealing land where water ruled for generations. Shorelines widen and old boundaries fade, hinting at change both subtle and profound. As the water dwindles, whispers of connection and renewal stir among scattered peoples longing to reunite. The land remembers, and mysteries once hidden beneath the surface begin to emerge. With every passing season, islands born from receding tides stretch and grow together. What was separated by endless water now gently joins. Travellers who once watched distant smoke from across the waves set foot on pathways uncovered by the shrinking sea. Trade caravans, unbroken for centuries, rediscover old trails worn by ancient ancestors. Echoes of lost languages, songs, and rituals resurface as cultures meet at the edges of this new land. The transformation is slow, almost imperceptible at times, but year by year, the sea lets go of its hold. Marshes bloom where fish once swam. Children chase birds across flats that shimmer at dawn. New forests root in soil untouched for millennia, bringing colour and curious animals from both shores. The past, long submerged, is revealed in fragments, carved stones, old canoes, stories told around flames beneath unfolding stars. Communities once divided by water greet each other as neighbours again. The first encounters are hesitant, but curiosity and relief soon take the place of old suspicion. Shared meals and laughter echo in new clearings, where people trade gifts and news from lands once unreachable. As trust grows, intricate customs intertwine, blending languages and beliefs into something entirely new, shaped by memory, hope, and the spirit of discovery. The landscape itself bears silent witness to the changes. Ancient riverbeds cut across the newly exposed ground, guiding fresh migrations. Herds of wild animals roam where they have not ventured for centuries, following the promise of new grass. Hunters set out at dawn, tracing the tracks of long-lost prey. Everywhere, the rhythm of life adjusts, adapting to the world as it unfolds once more from the relinquished grasp of water. Night falls across the broad new land, and families listen to tales by the fire stories of how things once were and how they are becoming. Elders speak of the great water, of days when villages vanished beneath the waves, and of the miracle that now brings distant kin together again. Beneath the stars, there is gratitude and quiet wonder as people begin to dream of a shared future on this reclaimed earth. As the months pass, the environment transforms in ways both gentle and dramatic. Where tides once shaped daily life, grasses sway and wildflowers bloom, inviting a new era of farming and gathering. People plant seeds in the dark, fertile earth, passing ancient techniques down to eager hands. Hope settles over the land like morning mist, and for the first time in generations, distant villages begin to work together to shape what comes next. The exposed earth offers new challenge. Unfamiliar winds sweep across the open plains, and travellers must learn where fresh water hides beneath the sand. But these difficulties bring innovation and shared effort. Communities send scouts to map the shifting land. Old rivalries soften in the spirit of cooperation, and together, neighbours devise clever ways to thrive in ever-changing surroundings, anchored by the promise of tomorrow. Cultural boundaries blur on the reclaimed land. Ceremonies once performed alone now blend together, gathering storytellers, dancers and healers from what were once distant shores. Music travels far on open air, echoing memories of both joy and loss. Slowly, a new culture emerges woven from the threads of many peoples, united by the extraordinary changes they have witnessed as the landscape transforms at their feet. In time, the story of the lost sea becomes legend. Children born after the waters receded learn of the ancient divide only through stories and sacred relics. They walk fearlessly across ground that was once submerged, playing and exploring, never doubting that their world could always change so deeply. The land that emerged from the retreating waves now pulses with life proof that over centuries both nature and people can adapt, reconnect and flourish. Chapter 8. The Gifts of the Sea. Even after the waters receded, the lost sea left behind treasures that continue to shape the land. Its ancient presence gifted the region with fertile soils, now rich and dark, nurturing crops and wild grasses alike. Rivers carved by receding water serve as lifelines, inviting wildlife to return. In this chapter, we reflect quietly on the lasting bounty nature has woven in the wake of ancient tides. As seasons passed, layers of silt settled across the once drowned valleys, transforming them into fields that blush with wildflowers each spring. Farmers now walk the rippling meadows where waves once shimmered, grateful for the richness left buried deep below their feet. Foxes, deer and birds nestle safely amid new thickets, as the land quietly recovers life blooming where silence once lingered. The sea's departure created a sanctuary for so many, unexpected, and the vanished sea's true legacy reaches far beyond fertile ground. Quiet lakes glimmer where the deepest waters once pooled, their surfaces catching the morning's first light. Fishermen drift on gentle currents, gathering sustenance from these calm remnants. The lakes themselves have become gathering place connecting people, just as the old sea once did, drawing together distant families and communities in a peaceful exchange that echoes the ancient rhythms. Paths once blocked by waves now offer fresh routes for travel and discovery. Merchants begin to wind along the newly revealed lowlands, their carts heavy with seeds and stories. Children tread these trails, finding smooth stones and shells, small signs of the immense change their ancestors witnessed. The land's new openness invites trade, communication, and an exchange of ideas, just as water once carried news from shore to distant shore. All around, clues of the old sea linger. In the cool mist of morning, one can almost hear a distant hush, like memories carried in fog. Wind shapes the grasses into the subtle impression of vanished waves, while erosion reveals curious fossils and river stones. These quiet moments invite contemplation, reminding travellers and settlers alike that their fortunes were shaped by water long gone, and by the patient grace of time's constant unfolding. Seasons move in gentle cycles over the changed land. Migrating birds glide along the ancient water's path, now guided by lush green instead of rolling blue. In spring, rare flowers bloom in soils enriched by the sea's silt, their petals painting secret histories across the valleys. Each year, life invents a new wild and purposeful, thriving in a landscape reborn. The gifts of the sea are everywhere, shaping each sunrise and harvest. Families gather on the shores of new lakes, telling stories of the deep waters their elders recall. They speak in hushed voices of fish with shimmering scales and storms that used to shade the sun. Children listen wide-eyed, collecting fragments of memory with every tale. These gatherings keep the old sea alive in collective memory, blending tradition and change, anchoring the future to a heritage written in currents and ebbing tides. Not all the gifts of the vanished sea are material. The experience of seeing water vanish taught generations the value of adaptability and shared purpose. As communities faced shifting shores together, They stirred ancient wisdom stories of resilience, cooperation, and hope woven into each gesture and song. The old sea's absence inspired perseverance and unity, gifting the people with lessons just as precious as the fertile land they now call home. Every sunrise, the land remembers the sea with colour and light. Mist rising from hidden springs paints the air with silver on the cool dawn, reminding all who wake that the landscape's scars are softened by beauty. Flora and fauna gather and flourish, a testament to patience and renewal. The story of the lost sea is visible in every new leaf, every playful streamer. Gentle promise that life endures and transforms, always finding balance. In the end, the lost sea's greatest gift is the simple wonder of renewal. Where floods once divided, green fields unite. Where water once whispered of change, voices now share gratitude and hope. The bounty left in the sea's wake continues to support new generations, quietly sustaining dreams. As we move forward, the memory of the lost sea encourages us to see potential everywhere, reminding us that from every ending, a new beginning patiently blossoms. Chapter 9. Echoes in the Earth. Beneath quiet fields and flowing rivers, traces of ancient lives slumber. In this chapter, archaeologists and villagers come together, drawn by legends that whisper of treasures and secrets buried deep below. With each careful step, the boundary between old and new blurs as long-hidden relics begin to awaken, stirring a sense of wonder that lingers in the air like a hushed memory. Shovels brush against stone, and fingers trace patterns worn by ancient hands. In the shifting soil, every finder clay shard, a bead, a fragment of bone becomes a doorway to a lost story. The villagers gather, sharing songs and whispered tales beside the dig, while the archaeologists ponder what lies yet uncovered. Hope swells with each discovery, urging patient curiosity in a world where the earth still guards its mysteries. Around flickering lanterns, elders recount legends of a kingdom swallowed by water, or treasures shielded by restless spirits. These stories, drifting between fact and fantasy, inspire young listeners to watch the shadows cast by old trees and the ripples on quiet ponds. The land hums softly with secrets, reminding all who listen that the past is never silent, only waiting to be heard by those willing to seek its voice. With rain-washed mornings and silent, starlit nights, the excavation becomes more than a search for objects. It is a journey through time, a quiet conversation with ancestors. The villagers light candles at dusk, honouring both the spirits beneath their feet and the unity above ground. As relics emerge from rich earth, each one carries an echo of laughter, longing, and dreams that shaped forgotten days. Some relics are ordinary, a bowl, a tool, a charm, yet each holds extraordinary power to connect lives across centuries. The archaeologists map their discoveries, but the villagers map memories, recalling fields where their grandparents once walked and rivers where ancient boats glided. Together, science meets story, and every unearthed artifact is both puzzle piece and prayer, a bridge between generations and worlds. As word of the findings spreads, neighbouring villages arrive to witness the revival of legend. Children peek into muddy pits, imagining kings and heroes who may once have roamed these lands. Elders share proverbs and forgotten songs, weaving the old with the new. Each gathering adds layers to the tapestry of memory, deepening the collective sense of awe for what the earth chooses to reveal. On moonlit nights, the unearthed relics are placed with care at the village centre. Under the wide sky, young and old reflect on what these objects mean, a reflection of endurance, a symbol of shared struggle, and a spark of creativity that lives on. The boundaries of history stretch softly outward, as echoes in the earth remind the villagers that they, too, are part of the same vast story. In the quiet that follows each day's work, archaeologists scribble notes and sketch strange designs on notepads. Sometimes, a pattern or symbol matches a myth told by the fire or a motif found in an old lullaby. These moments of recognition spark excitement, reminders that knowledge is not just unearthed but remembered, passed hand to hand like a treasured heirloom from the distant past. The landscape itself seems to breathe with mist, drifting along riverbanks and shadows lengthening among ancient trees. Every stone uncovered is a silent witness, every artifact a messenger from a world shaped by water and wind. Together, researchers and villagers find humility in these discoveries, understanding that the land keeps its secrets close, yielding them only when trust and patience are shown. As the chapter closes, a sense of quiet gratitude settles over the village. The relics and stories brought to light challenge old assumptions and inspire gentle wonder. Though many mysteries remain, the echoes in the earth have drawn hearts closer, inviting all who listen to cherish the hidden connections beneath their feet. The search for what lies below has only just begun, and its allure endures. Chapter 10. Lessons from the Ripples. As we return to the story of the lost sea, the echoes of its vanished waves still linger in the silence. Beneath the calm, there are lessons that murmur softly, lessons of change, resilience, and adaptation. Tonight, let us quietly contemplate how shifting landscapes have always rewritten the story of life, shaping those who live upon them across the ages. The lost sea's memory remains, not just as a tale of floods and disappearances, but as a living echo in the hearts of every civilization it touched. Its waters receded, yet in their wake grew new patterns of human connection and culture. Long after the last ripple faded, its influence continued, inviting us to reflect on transformation and the persistence of hope in times of upheaval. On these ancient shorelines, societies rose and fell, adapting to the rise and retreat of water. The people learned to move, to survive, to remake their homes in the face of great uncertainty. In the gentle rhythm of the tides they found strength. Even when the landscape shifted beneath their feet, they carried on, adapting and evolving with an unbroken, quiet resilience. As we sit with the memory of the vanished sea, we glimpse layers of ingenuity woven into the past. Communities built bridges between islands, crafted boats for distant travel, and learned to read the land as it changed. Each challenge from the water's edge shaped their stories, teaching lessons that ripple into our own era, reminding us that uncertainty can nurture creativity and connection. Every lost coastline holds a silent wisdom, revealed only to those who pause to listen. Imagine the laughter of children playing by the ancient waves, the gatherings of elders recounting changes witnessed over generations. These moments, though now submerged by time whisper of how people learned to trust in cycles, finding beauty even as the familiar world shifted away. Let us reflect on how the lost sea's dispersal shaped not just the geography, but the very fabric of communities. Trade routes changed, languages intertwined, new alliances bloomed where water once flowed. In every adaptation, there is a lesson gently reminding us that while all landscapes transform, the story of humanity is one of gathering and growing, not merely losing. Through countless generations, the memory of the vanished waters became a guide. Myths told of great crossings and spirit guardians of the lakes. Songs carried the sound of rain on empty beds of stone. Stories preserved the wisdom that survival is found in listening, learning, and changing, an invitation to greet each unknown tide with a steady, hopeful heart. Tonight, as you drift into quiet, let these ancient lessons linger in your thoughts. The lost sea reminds us that endings can give way to new beginnings, and what disappears is sometimes the ground for something unforeseen to emerge. Its absence is not emptiness, but space for echoes of resilience to gently expand within us, guiding our dreams onward. In soft reflection, we see how the shifting landscapes of history have always transformed the destinies of those who dwell within them. Each wave that faded gave birth to new horizons. The people of the lost sea remind us, even as the world changes, strength and hope remain woven quietly but enduringly through every chapter of our shared story. As we close this chapter, let gratitude flow for the lessons carried by these ripples through time. May their calm wisdom settle gently in the mind, reminding us to embrace change with courage, resilience, and a sense of kinship with all who have adapted before us. Tomorrow, the story continues shaped, always, by the quiet power of landscapes and the endurance of human spirit. Chapter 11. Threads across time. Though the ancient waterways have faded into memory, their influence still quietly shapes the world around us. As rivers dried and wetlands gave way to new landscapes, the echoes of the lost sea linger in culture, tradition, and even the memories that people pass down. In this chapter, we follow those connections, tracing the subtle lines that link past civilizations to the Americas today. The land's transformations may seem absolute, but history is rarely erased. Even as the physical waters disappeared, their presence remains woven into legends, migration routes and rituals. Families recall distant migrations along the riverbanks, and old songs echo tales of journeys once shaped by water. The invisible touch of the lost sea is still felt, a gentle current beneath the lives of many across the continents. These threads across time reveal how the waterways once connected far-flung communities. Trade routes that emerged along the muddy shores fostered an exchange of ideas, languages and beliefs. Over generations, as the landscape shifted, new pathways formed, but the ancient ones left their mark. The rhythms of old river towns and lakeside villages ripple through local customs, shaping everything from architecture to cuisine. Even today, celebrations and festivals bear the imprint of the vanished sea. Dances mimic the movement of waves, communal meals recall shared feasts long ago, and stories are told by elders that begin along water's edge. These traditions are more than relics. They are living testaments to the enduring influence of nature's hand. Identity, it seems, is forever shaped by what once flowed beneath our feet. In some places, myths have grown around the memory of lost waters. Children are told tales of creatures that once dwelled in deep lakes, and old maps are marked with ghostly outlines of vanished shores. Artists and storytellers draw inspiration from this watery past, weaving narratives filled with longing and wonder. The hidden legacy bubbles up in art, music, and the quiet reverence people hold for rivers and lakes. Language itself carries traces of these ancient waterways. Words for crossing, gathering, and flowing reflect a time when water shaped survival and mobility. Place names evoke old river bends or long-gone islands, anchoring modern life to landscapes that have shifted or disappeared. Through language, the presence of the lost sea endures, quietly guiding conversations and crafting a bridge to ancestral memory. Communities, separated by mountains or forests today, once found each other along these aquatic paths. Connections forged long ago still surface in genetics, in craft traditions, and in the subtle similarities between distant groups. The waterways were more than routes. They were lifelines binding generations. Over time, even as the waters retreated, those relationships held firm, leaving their mark on the tapestry of the Americas. Archaeologists and historians dig for clues to understand how life unfolded along these rivers and lakes. Each shard of pottery, each weathered canoe, serves as a reminder that the past is not so distant. The research brings fresh insights, but it is local memory and oral history that truly animate the story of the lost sea. Together, they help us see how deeply its legacy flows through us all. Modern challenges, like water scarcity or climate change, remind us of the power these ancient systems held. The vanished sea teaches resilience and adaptation, how communities once thrived in changing environments. By remembering how ancestors navigated times of abundance and drought, contemporary societies can find wisdom and inspiration, carrying forward the lessons etched by ancient waters into the future. Threads across time connect us, weaving a story that stretches from a world flooded with possibility to the present day. The waterways may no longer exist, but their spirit lives on in the ways we gather, remember, and forge connections. Reflecting on the lost sea, we find that history is never truly gone. It moves silently alongside us, always part of the living landscape of the Americas. Chapter 12. Horizon Unfolding. As our journey draws to a gentle close, we linger for a moment at the edge where past and future meet. Calm, reflective currents sweep over the landscape, whispering about all the horizons still left unseen. The lost sea may be gone, but its quiet impressions remain beneath the surface, hinting at deeper mysteries that generations have yet to discover. Let us breathe in this final moment together. We gaze quietly across the shadowy expanse, where waters once divided and connected distant worlds. These horizons are more than lines on a map. They are echoes of ancient footsteps, silent witnesses to the unending passage of time. With every calm ripple, the forgotten waters invite us to wonder about all that remains unseen, inviting our imagination to drift to places marked only by memory and myth. As the sun lowers and washes the land in golden haze, we reflect on the power of these hidden waters to quietly shape stories both great and small. The ancient sea shaped the rise and fall of civilizations, left invisible borders cradled beneath rivers and forests, and fostered unexpected connections that echo far beyond its vanished shores. Horizons once lost wait to be found again with each curious gaze. Throughout our journey, each layer of history has unfolded slowly, like mist lifting from a silent morning lake. The lands that hold the bones of ancient rivers keep their secrets close, layered deep in silt and memory. Yet, it is the patient uncovering, the gentle wandering, that brings these forgotten worlds softly back into the light. The past and future mingle quietly here, always. Standing at this final threshold, we realize that the old sea's disappearance did not erase its influence, it only changed the shape of the world's story. What was separated by water became united by rising ground, new paths drawn where waves once rolled. In this transformation, the quiet persistence of time weaves new stories from the remnants left behind by the lost tide. The mystery of the hidden horizon endures. Every ancient shoreline, now overgrown or buried, still hums with tales of passage. We remember the ones who crossed strange waters, the customs and treasures that drifted ashore, and the shifting boundaries between isolation and connectedness. These memories stretch beyond the visible, ever inviting us to discover what lies just past the reach of certainty. From the gentle silence of forgotten lakes to the echoing voids beneath our feet, history's unseen layers wait for those willing to imagine what once was. The promise of discovery lingers in silent estuaries, overgrown banks, and the faded echoes of distant songs. With each quiet exploration, we uncover reminders that even lost seas remain alive in the stories we choose to share. As the night deepens and the light softens, we look to the horizon one last time. It is a place that holds both questions and hope. The future, like the past, is shaped by untold stories that rest just beneath the surface, guiding us onward. The land and its hidden waters encourage us to listen, to wonder, and to continue searching for the mysteries just beyond view. Let the lessons of the lost sea follow us as we move into tomorrow. Every overlooked corner of history holds the potential to change how we see the world. With patience and curiosity, new horizons unfold, revealing that the journey of discovery is never truly finished, but always quietly advancing, ripple by unseen ripple, beneath the rhythm of time. Thank you for accompanying this journey across forgotten shores and silent depths. May these reflections linger, like the last light before dusk, reminding us that every horizon we meet holds old mysteries and new promises. As you drift onward, let the enduring power of hidden places inspire you to seek out the next untold story hidden, just beyond the horizon, waiting patiently to be found.